All right, hello, welcome. My name is Shaina. I'm an astrologer, and today I'm talking about something pretty controversial. Even to me, I do feel a little bit weird making this video, but today I am talking about how I predicted my mother's passing using astrology. Now, obviously, this is not the thing that you want to predict. The point of this video is not how to predict your death. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm interested. I have no interest in knowing when or how I die. That's not what I used astrology for. However, it was kind of glaringly obvious to me before anything even happened, before my mom even got sick. I thought one of my parents was going to pass. I just kind of want to talk today about what indications that I saw that made me know this in astrology. Before I even get any further, I just want to emphasize the fact that death is for the living, and that is very much reflected in astrology. I'm going to be pretty much using exclusively various charts of mine because that was what was so obvious that I was going to lose someone. It was not obvious that my mom was going to pass, because once somebody's passed, they're gone and it affects that person very differently. But where I think you see death most obviously is in the person or the people around them that was the most impacted by it. Again, this is a really touchy video, so if this is like triggering to you at all, just don't watch it. This is like triggering for me a little bit, but I don't know. I have Uranus in Aquarius in the 8th house. I think this stuff should be spoken about. I think it's really interesting. I just don't think there's a video out there like this, and I kind of wanted to make it and talk about it. I also just want to keep the memory of my mom alive. I really do like talking about her. I'm not somebody that hides it. I'm also not somebody that has to like go around waving the dead mom flag or anything, but I do talk about her. Like, of course I'm going to be open about it. Like, I want people to hear her story. I just want to talk about her. I also want to say that if you're interested in kind of getting to know my mom more when she was alive and just kind of, again, keeping her memory alive, I did make a little video for her celebration of life where I compiled a bunch of videos from our home videos, like old like tapes and stuff from our home recordings, and I made it into a short little like, I guess like obituary video for her. So if you want to go over there and watch it, I would honestly appreciate that even more than watching this video, just because I think she's a beautiful person inside and out. Just kind of honoring her existence while she was here is honestly really, really important to me. I think that especially in America, I don't know about other countries, like once somebody passes, we like hush hush and we don't talk about it. And oh, now it's taboo. And that is really offensive to me. I'm like, we should talk about her, you know? So that's kind of what I'm doing. A lot of this video will focus around my progressed Scorpio moon. So this is kind of a continuation of my progressed moon series. I've done my progressed Sagittarius moon recap, and I actually did a progressed Scorpio moon video in the middle of my Scorpio moon before my mother passed. So if you're interested in watching either of those, I'll link them down below. I've also, if you're not sure what progressed charts are and you want to learn about them, I did a whole video all about what progressed charts are, everything you need to know, all that sort of stuff. I'll actually link that in the cards up here. Before we get any more into it, I feel weird doing this, but I do sell birth chart readings if you're interested on my website, shainaemily.com. I also have an astrology TikTok, which I have been so much more active on. I have been actually posting every day at shaina.emily, and I also have a personal Instagram. So I actually wore this dress on the day of my mother's celebration of life, which is why I chose to wear it today. I just do want to say that she was very adamant about having a celebration of life rather than a funeral, which makes sense as she was a 9th house sun. And that is a very like, I love 9th house suns. A big reason is because my mother was a 9th house sun. I'll actually put her chart right here if you're curious. Again, I'm not using this to predict her death, but this is her chart. I really loved her. She holds a special place in my heart still. And the farther I get away from her passing, which it's been almost 4 years now since she's passed, the more I realize how special she was and how there's nobody else like her, and how I always knew that I was really lucky to have her as a mom. So having her for those 23 years was the biggest blessing upon my life I could have ever asked for. And 9th house suns are very optimistic, but in a very honest way. My mom was never an unrealistic person and was never just like, ah, just be happy. Like, that was not her at all. She was definitely a Capricorn moon, but she had hope. And I think that's a big thing with 9th house suns, is that they always have hope. And that's something that is really beautiful that I honestly wish that I had. My moon was progressed in Scorpio from November 2018 until March 2021. So we're gonna start around right before my moon progressed into Scorpio. So this is kind of mid 2018. Immediately, I was very nervous for my progressed Scorpio moon. And a big thing to note is that pay attention to your natal chart. How does Scorpio show up in your natal chart? I was really nervous for it, mostly because I have an intercepted Scorpio. There's this fly in this room that I've been trying to kill. It's really tenacious because I've always been very focused on progressed charts. And so when I looked ahead and saw that my moon was going into Scorpio, if you don't know, which I'm sure you do if you understand progressed charts, a lot of the theme of Scorpio is death and loss. But it's more than just death and loss. I don't want you thinking that, oh my God, I'm about to go into my progressed Scorpio moon, my mom's gonna die, someone's gonna die, because that's not even close to the case. And somebody can die in any of the moon phases you go through. It just depends on other energies. However, what I do think is pertinent if you're about to go into your progressed Scorpio moon is that whatever you fear happening the most, that you couldn't even wrap your head around, that you have even trouble facing or saying, that you don't even want to think about, that would really tear you down, that you're not sure if you could get back up, that will probably happen. So it doesn't mean that one of your parents is going to die, but maybe you're going to get really sick, and that's going to be like a huge detriment to you. You're not going to get the job that you needed, and you have to completely restart careers, and now you're broke and you're homeless, and that was the biggest detriment to you. You have to go to court, and court took all your money. You're getting a divorce. Like, whatever is that thing that you, and I know this sounds scary, and it is, whatever it is that thing that you don't want to even think about, that you know you kind of can't handle, that's kind of what the Scorpio moon is going to throw at you. So it doesn't mean, again, that somebody's going to, it's not, oh, Scorpio moon, someone's going to die. No, not necessarily. But honestly, yes, maybe. Like, let's be real. Yes, maybe. So when I saw that my moon was progressing into Scorpio, my dad has a natal Scorpio moon. And so honestly, I immediately was like, for some reason, I don't know why, something came over me and I was like, my dad is gonna die during this Scorpio moon. And I was like, I can't see any other way around it. He's going to get sick, because I was a very hardcore outspoken vegan at the time, and I still believe all that stuff. I'm just not as outspoken and hardcore about it. But my dad did not eat well, at least to me. My mom was the opposite. She, I think, ate the best that I'd ever seen at the time she was like 57-year-old eat. She's always been a dancer. She'd been very healthy, very conscious of her health from a young age, all that sort of stuff. So I just was immediately like, my dad eats so poorly, and he just looked very different, is what I'll say. Well, my mom seemed like she was really healthy and she was doing okay. I was very fixated on the fact that I thought my dad was gonna pass. In around August of 2018, my mom actually had a mole on her arm that she had to get a biopsy for, and thankfully it came back benign, but they wanted to get rid of it anyways. And she didn't tell me before any of this happened. She just kind of called me and like told me this was gonna happen, and told me, hey, if you want to come by, you can, but if you don't, you don't have to. Like, it's benign, it's fine, but I'm getting it removed on this day. So of course that I came out, and that's going to be a theme, because I've intercepted Scorpio in my natal chart, so Libra takes over that house. So that's kind of how my parents have always handled things with me. They keep me in the dark and they don't tell me about it, and they kind of shelter me from it. So even though I really never lived like a sheltered lifestyle, I was in the performing arts, I was exposed to a lot of things from a young age, they definitely verbally sheltered me from a lot of things, if that makes sense. They wouldn't tell me a lot of darker, deeper secrets, and this continues throughout the theme of my Scorpio moon and throughout the time of my mother passing. I was actually living in LA during this time, and they were still in my hometown of Vegas. So I wound up coming in while my mom was in the hospital. I remember, like, I think they were still at the hospital and we'd taken two separate cars, and I came home, like, I was home like maybe 15-20 minutes before them. And I remember like going on like a freak panic attack and like labeling all the stuff in our house that I thought was gonna kill my dad, basically, like the foods that I thought were really bad for him and really harmful for him. And I like put all this kind of like vegan propaganda everywhere, because I just felt like my mom getting this mole removed was a sign of something greater. Now you may be like, well, if you see that your mom went to this hospital for what might have been skin cancer, shouldn't you have seen that it was going to be your mom? I couldn't see that. There was no way. Even going back now, there's no way I was ever going to put that out there. Like, I have always loved my mom so much. And even though at the time I really did care for my dad, my mom passing was just not something that I could have ever in a billion years wanted to wrap my head around, wanted to think, wanted to put out there. Even though the moon represents the mother in astrology, I was like, it's my dad. Like, you know, kind of like blinders on, like, it's my dad. He's got a Scorpio moon, so it's him, you know, kind of situation. I should also say that my Scorpio moon was progressing through my 4th house. So this takes a greater emphasis as to why I felt like there would be a loss in the family, okay? Because the 4th house represents the home, the family, and it's Scorpio is a loss. The moon is the mother. But again, my dad is a Scorpio moon, so it's gonna be him, right? So let's take a little bit of a look as far as what my progressed chart looked at around this time, late 2018. It was still in Libra, but it was in like one of the last 2 degrees of Libra, and it was horrendously aspected. It was square a bunch of Capricorn stuff, square my rising, in a cross configuration. It was extraordinarily unhealthy. Okay, and obviously I was going through my own stuff. Also, that kind of explained why. And also you'll notice that it's creeping up on my Chiron. My Chiron in Scorpio had moved into my 4th house, and my moon was right on top of it. So that was another indicator that this is not going to be easy. This moon is horribly aspected. It's conjunct my Chiron. Chiron is like your perpetual wound. It's the wound that never heals. You know, moon conjunct Chiron is a huge, huge loss, a huge, huge pain. And with it in the 4th house in Scorpio, a huge, huge pain around the mother, around the family, around the home, around your heart, you know, affecting me directly, especially, and feeling that so strongly. So I kind of knew that I wasn't going to get out of this time of my life easily at all. Fast forward a little bit to September 2018. My parents called me up one day very randomly, and they told me that my mom had to get surgery. I had never heard anything. Like, as much as information I'm giving you now, that's as much information as I had before my mom called me. And my mom says that she's having to get basically a total abdominal hysterectomy. And they made it sound very casual. Again, this is just further emphasizing my natal intercepted Scorpio energy. They didn't really stress me out about it much at all. I just knew I had to come home for it. And all that I really thought was going on was that she was having issues going through menopause, because she was. And the main issue was that she heals from this surgery. Like, that was kind of what I thought the whole thing was. So she went into surgery in the middle of September 2018. This is towards the end of my Libra moon. So with progressed moons, you start to feel the things looming before they go directly into that sign. It's almost like at the end of that moon phase, it's like setting you up to go into that moon phase. So for example, like, let's say you're going back to school. Maybe you'll be accepted and start to enroll and start the process at the end of your Leo moon. And then once you're kind of in the first month of school is when you start school and when you go into your Virgo moon. So that's kind of how it was. It was kind of like setting me up for what I was going to go through. And even during that Libra moon period, it was terribly, terribly aspected. And I honestly had a terrible time with my Libra moon, but it's much more shallow because Libra's a lot more shallow. So my parents didn't tell me that she might have cancer, and that's why she was going into surgery. They waited to tell me that until the night before. And I'm talking like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. the night before. Like, I'm about to go to bed. She's going to go into surgery the very next morning, which is just very my parents. It's just like, that's just so them. Also, they kept making it out to seem like, oh, but she probably won't. Really, really, really brushing it off. So going into the surgery, I was very scared. I still was not given the proper extremeness of the situation, if that makes sense, which is very Libra moon, a very progressed Libra moon. They were still sheltering me, they were covering things up, and they were hiding things from me. You know, sweeping things under the rug, everything's fine, everything's perfect, everything's pretty. So after she got out of surgery, you know, I was told that she did have cancer. She had an extremely rare form of ovarian cancer, MMMT. It was like 1B. It wasn't as late in the stages as most people that catch it. It's just such an aggressive, such a hard form of cancer to beat, and the mortality rate is incredibly, incredibly high. So basically, I was told then and there that, like, my mom's not gonna make it. And obviously, I freaked out. I should also say I'm an only child, so the only people there, and all my grandparents have passed, the only people there was my aunt and my dad's sister. They were raised in a very, they're not comforting people. I will just say that. Like, They're not the most comforting people at all. So my dad just locked himself in the bathroom so that he couldn't see me cry, I guess. And I obviously freaked out. I had to like leave, and I was just like hysterically crying. And he kind of refused to come out and help me, basically. And then he got mad at me for reacting as strong as I did because it was in a public place. Like, I found out that he had known that there was the high chance. So knowing that for a long time and being told that my mother does have cancer, it was not as much of a surprise to him. It was more expected. He is a Virgo rising Pisces sun, if you're interested. So let's take a look at my 2018 solar return chart. So the solar return chart is just basically on your birthday, it's kind of like the year ahead. So my sun is at 18 degrees 46 minutes Capricorn. So the next year when the sun goes back to 18 degrees 46 minutes Capricorn, exactly, that chart, that whole chart in the sky right then is your solar revolution chart or your solar return chart. So mine for 2018, I had a Libra moon, which makes so much sense. That was very poorly aspected, very much reflects my progressed chart. And again, even major more thing to note is that Libra's in my 4th house, and I have 2 Scorpio planets that are intercepted in there. So it's like going through a lot of pain, going through a lot of stuff, but it's all being swept under the rug. It's all being ignored. They aren't telling me, they aren't letting me know. My mom had been dealing with symptoms the entire year, and she had a tumor the size of a tennis ball in her ovaries, which is absolutely gigantic. And she had never talked about any of the issues that she was dealing with. Also, I have my Sun, Venus, and Pluto right at about 18 degrees, which is the Virgo degree. It's the degree of which, that's my natal sun, but 9/11 happened on an 18 degree sun. Chernobyl happened on an 18 degree sun. Lots of really harsh kind of like famous figures that are bad or negative or extreme have prominent 18 degree energies. But I should say it's labeled as like the bad degree, the mean degree, the evil degree, whatever. So having 3 planets in there right on top of each other in the 6th house, poorly aspected, which I was dealing with my own health issues at the time too, only further emphasizes the fact that my mom was dealing with health issues. I had to know about this cancer, all that sort of stuff. Let's move into 2019. Basically, throughout all of 2019, it was just my mom getting various surgeries, getting like multiple debulking surgeries. Basically, debulking surgeries are where they take out the organs that aren't necessary for you. She got her ovaries taken out. That was a really bad surgery. She just got a bunch of stuff taken out, constantly in and out of hospitals. She was trying alternative treatments. She was trying conventional medicine. She was trying everything and anything, spending all her time trying to beat this, basically. And I spent all my time going back and forth between Vegas and LA. Let's take a little bit of a look on my progress chart for 2019. So again, my moon has been moving over Chiron, which emphasizes everything like I said. With my progressed Scorpio moon, it's still really poorly aspected. It's kind of doing the same stuff it was before. And with my solar revolution chart for 2019, there's a lot of negative stuff going on in my 3rd house because I was going back and forth between the 2 places so much, and I didn't know where to be because my mom is such a Capricorn moon. And my biggest regret during this period, and if I could pass any advice to you, if you're somebody that's going through somebody with a sick parent or somebody that they love and care about in the hospital, is to be with them. Be with them and stop your life. Like, I did stop my life a lot, but my mom was such a Capricorn moon, and my whole life was just about being a successful actress and being successful. And she was just pushing me so hard to stay in LA and keep auditioning and keep my life going. And it felt like I was like going against her whenever I was like going home to visit her. My biggest regret, honestly, is not scooping my mom up and taking her to LA with me. And also my solar revolution chart, I have this Aquarius moon in the 4th house, which makes so much sense because in me and my mom's synastry chart, I would say like the main, I think like issue or like hiccup in our relationship was, I guess, just the fact that we're both Capricorn moons. Even though I felt like that was the reason why we were so close and we were so bonded and we understood each other, that's also why I felt like we had so many troubles opening up to each other and being vulnerable emotionally. Her Saturn was on top of my moon, and my Saturn was square her moon. So we had both double moon Saturn contacts, and they were really strong and really pertinent my whole life. I always felt like there was somewhat of a brick wall sometimes in between me and my mom. And so it makes sense that I have, for the solar revolution chart, this Aquarius moon in the 4th house, because I was talking to my mom all the time. I was close to her, and she was obviously the most important thing in my life then, but it's Aquarius. It was like we still couldn't connect. I still couldn't break a certain barrier. And I remember feeling like frozen in time and space, thinking like, come on, Shaina, like just break that barrier, break that wall, whatever it is, just do it. And being like, I don't know how, but I don't know how. There's just this detachment, you know? I also felt like I needed that Libra rising and Aquarius moon to cope, because all I wanted to do was just lay in my bed and cry about it. Like, that's all. I would wake up crying. I would go to sleep crying. That's all I wanted to do, was just cry and cry and cry. And the only way for me to like get up and keep going was to detach from it, I felt. Or else I felt like it would just hinder me, and that wouldn't help my mom at all. Which that's kind of what I feel like my dad did. I feel like my dad just kind of like Virgo rising Pisces sunned it and just like made it all about himself and made my mom support him more. And I didn't want to be that person. So I felt like I had to do the opposite. Another thing that this is not what this is about, but if I could do the whole process again, I would definitely push for my mom not to do chemo, especially because it was such an invasive and aggressive cancer. As terrible as it sounds, the chances of her beating it were like none, honestly. Like, the best we could hope for was realistically another year or few years with her. Like, even getting 5 years would have been like a medical marvel. So I truly just wish that she wouldn't have done the chemo, because the chemo made her so much sicker. It made her so much weaker, and it didn't do anything. And then she just looked like a cancer patient. And I just don't think she would have spent that year of her life as sick and in such ill health if she hadn't had done chemo. Now, this isn't true if your cancer is very different and chemo has a different outcome for it, but I wish I would have spoken up about it, because I really would have rather had 2019 with my mom, gone on vacations, done things, gone out, you know, enjoyed life, rather than always sitting with her in her chemo stuff or all that sort of stuff. And so that's another major regret I have, just something to note. So during this time, especially late 2019, early 2020, I started really looking ahead in my progressed chart to see if I felt like my mom was gonna pass. And this was a big reason why I knew she was very soon, like very early on. By the beginning of 2019, I pretty much knew she wasn't going to make it. And I pretty much had predicted exactly when she was going to pass. And it's kind of blatantly obvious, and I'll take you through why. So in August 2020, I switched from being a Cancer rising to a Leo rising. And Cancer and Capricorn became intercepted in my chart. That, to me, was one of the most blatant signs ever that she wasn't going to make it. And in summer of 2020 was when she was going to pass. Going from being a Cancer rising, where obviously I'm a Cancer rising, like my mom is my everything, my mom is my all. I've always looked like her. People have said that I look like her. I followed in her footsteps. She was just why I had motivation to do anything. So seeing that I was going to become a Leo rising, and not only that, Cancer was going to be intercepted in my 12th house, I felt like there's no way that my mom's going to be around then. I have such strong Cancer Capricorn energy in my chart, which is the mother and the father. And having that intercepted in the 12th house is like the house between life and death. It's like my mom's not there anymore, right? She's passed, she's gone. I don't have this person that I can call up on the phone and cry to anymore. I don't have this support system anymore. I have to just go out and be alone and be myself and rely solely on myself. And also with that Capricorn intercepted in the 6th house, my mom, with her being a Capricorn moon, I felt like she definitely played the role of my father more than my father did. She was a very practically minded person. If I needed something, I knew that I could ask her, even though honestly I rarely did, because she gave me so much. I didn't ever need to ask for anything. I never wanted to ask any more from her. But being Capricorn intercepted in the 6th house, now that option's not there. I don't have that rock that I can rely on, which is very Capricorn in the 6th house. And you know, losses all happen at the same time. And as I mentioned, right around the time when my mom passed, Capricorn being intercepted in my 6th house. And I remember when I finally had come back to LA after my mom had passed, that very next day, I was doing a reading or filming a video with Party Trick Astrology, and that was when Nina decided that she wasn't doing Party Trick Astrology anymore and that I was not allowed to continue it on. You know, losses happen at the same time. That was a major loss for me. That was, you know, what I had built up and what I had worked on and how I was making my money. And so basically I find out that my mom's gone, which is like the person I depend on. And now the one thing that I built for myself, or I built with somebody else that supported me, was being taken away from me as well. And I don't know why she chose that timing still. It's wild timing. I didn't have a mom anymore, and I didn't have a job anymore. Also, I saw that after my moon was moving out of Scorpio, it was moving into Sagittarius in the 5th house. But more than that, it was intercepted when my moon went into Sagittarius. So you'd think, oh, when your moon goes into Sagittarius, it's like a weight is lifted off of you. You're so light, all that sort of stuff. There's hope. No, my moon was intercepted. By that time, my interception had changed to Sagittarius and Gemini. So I had Cancer in my 12th house, which made me think like my mom only lives in my subconscious, which is very true. And Sagittarius and Gemini were intercepted, which is kind of like a loss of hope, a loss of positivity, a loss of looking optimistically into the future, which I still have that interception now. So again, that is a lack of a mother. That's a lack of a mothering figure. And it was also conjunct Pluto, which adds a scorpionic edge to my moon. And I was dealing with the after effect of grief that entire time. So then after that, my moon goes into Capricorn in the 6th house, which is where it is now, which basically means you have to be your own parent. You have to be your own father. You have to get your shit together because nobody else is going to, right? Which is very much where I'm at now. And even further emphasized, it was square Saturn. It's like there's not that support. There's a lack of that support. Yeah, at this time, I was like, there's no way. There's no way she's getting out of this, you know? I did ask the tarot one day in like a desperate state in 2020 when it was really looking bad. I frantically asked, like, I want one card to tell me what is going to be the result, and I will take that card and I will never ask again. I had never asked this question before. Whatever this card is what it is. And I literally got the death card. I got the death card upright. I'm literally not making this up. It literally just said, what's going to happen with my mom and her Cancer? The death card. She's going to die. You know, and I know we don't like reading the death card as literal death because a lot of times it isn't, but sometimes it really is. It's hard to ignore, but I asked, you know, it's the monkey's paw. You get what you ask for. Another thing to note is that in my progress chart at the beginning of 2020, that first half, my Scorpio moon was in the 4th house, but it squared my Aquarius sun. So I always saw my parents as being very much meant to be together. I have a natal Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon conjunction. I'm a new moon baby. And normally when you're a new moon baby, your parents are very happy together. They get along and you see them as being together and parenting you the same for forever. And that was very much how it was when I was growing up. Trust nobody, guys. So I started having suspicions that my dad, and I'm going to say this because I don't give a fuck. I don't talk to my dad anymore. I don't like him. I don't respect him. And if he sees this, fuck you, dad. The wrong parent died. So I had suspicions that my dad was cheating on my mom around this time. And the reason is because there's a bunch of stuff, but like he had this job out a little bit outside of Vegas and Prim. And he was like, oh, there are these groupies that kind of like see our band that really like him. But there was this one that he'd always talk about. And on his birthday, he showed me that she got him a cake for his birthday. And I was like, that's so weird. This was like even before my mom got cancer. And I was being like, I guess I'll ignore that. Okay. So basically this is the sun square moon. Like you see your parents' relationship breaking. Okay. Only a few months after my mom passed, my dad got into a new relationship, or at least he told me about this relationship. And the relationship he got into was with that girl that gave him a cake, right? So suspicions were right. That is sus. And I was always suspicious that he had already been in the relationship by the time he had asked me if he could be in that relationship. One day I'm visiting him. It's just us. And I'm not thinking anything of it at all. Something that we did together was we would drink beer. We would try beers together. We had similar beer tastes. And I noticed that there had been this Miller Lite in the fridge for months. Like it had been in the fridge since 2019. And I don't know what the fuck it was doing in there. Neither of us drink that nasty ass beer. So I made some joke about like, why do you have this nasty ass beer in the fridge? And he was like, oh no, that's not mine. That's my girlfriend's, like his now girlfriend. I remember thinking like, you just told me. Like you just told me that you were cheating on my mom. Because in 2020, she spent most of the time with me in LA and he did not come out to LA. He spent that whole time in Vegas. So that means that while my mom was with me going through extremely severe treatments and I was taking care of her, he had his girlfriend over while my mom was still alive, while she was going through cancer, because I'd seen that beer in that fridge for so long. So he had just admitted to me that he was cheating on my mom with her. And now you might be like, well, you don't know for sure that they were doing anything. It's like, even if they weren't doing anything physically, he had her over and they were forming a relationship and they were dating after she passed. So there was obviously always a little thing between them. You know what I mean? That was showing my sun, my Aquarius sun square my Scorpio moon, my Aquarius sun dad that doesn't care, that wasn't there, that distanced himself. And you know, that was square my Scorpio moon. I still cared about my mom more than anything. I mean, I don't care if my dad dated afterwards because that doesn't affect the relationship between me and my mom, but it just showed me how fickle he was and that he would never own up to it. You know, my mom was complaining more about the relationship with me, and I was seeing that she was not happy at all in that relationship for the first time in my life. She had opened up to me about that. Obviously, you know, also during the 2020 period was when COVID hit, so it makes sense that, you know, Scorpio moon, 4th house, I was locked down, locked in my home, couldn't leave my home, and I was going through a very traumatic experience, so that all fits in. Now I'm just going to quickly talk about my solar revolution chart for the year of 2020. It's a bunch of Capricorn energy in the 1st house with a Cancer moon in the 6th house opposing a bunch of stuff, which again makes sense. I was having so much trouble being vulnerable to my mom and breaking that wall, and it was really driving me crazy. I said on a TikTok, like, talking to a Capricorn rising is like talking to a brick wall, and that's really how I felt like I was acting. But what I was really feeling was being a Cancer moon. Like, I was fucking feeling awful, so emotional, so sensitive. Everything hurt me, like, just so hurt that I was gonna lose my mom. And of course it's in the 6th house, the house of health, because that's what I was dealing with my mom. I was doing a lot of gross things that I should not have been having the responsibility of. It should have been the responsibility of the husband if he's still around, but my dad would have never stepped up to do. Never in a billion years. So I had to step up to do it, and that makes sense with all that Capricorn stuff in the 1st house. Now, in saying this, I was not perfect. I was so far from perfect during this time. Like, I have so many regrets. I live with so many regrets on how I acted during this time. Like I said, my biggest regret is that I should have been with her every second of every day, and I wasn't. I regret that. That was rude of me. That was very Capricorn of me. That was very, you know, 1st house stuff, selfish of me. I was still trying to have, you know, my 22-year-old life, and I was ignorant, and I should have just stopped that, and I regret that. So as I said, my mom was seeking alternative treatment in Orange County, and it was just not working. End of July 28th, 2020 to be exact, my mother passes. And we kind of knew she was going to. We took her home to Vegas, and she was in hospice care, and they put her on morphine until she passed, which was another traumatizing experience because she literally looked like that old lady on SpongeBob, which like comes out in the wheelchair with like glass skin and stuff. Like, that is legitimately what she looked like when she was passing, which is horrible to see, especially when she was somebody who was so full of life when she was around. So another thing that just further emphasizes that intercepted Taurus Scorpio was when my mother died, like when she literally died, I was like running out to Home Depot to get like a few things that my family needed or something, but she of course passed at that exact time, even though I was home like all time. She died then. I didn't find this out until much later. But when she passed, my dad initially was going to make it so that when I came home, she was gone. He was trying to shelter me from seeing her dead body, which I would have been so mad at my dad for. Like, if you know anything about me, even just the fact that I'm making this video, I think should tell you that, like, I want to talk about this stuff. I want to see it. I want to know it. But no, he was still trying to shelter me. And the only reason why I came home, and I thank God, I'm so thankful, I was able to see my mother's dead body, which is such a big deal of closure for me. And I found out that after she passed, the very first person he called was that girl. The girl that he wound up being in a relationship with after my mom passed. And I know because he told me this months later, and he said, I'm not even mad at this woman. She was the one that convinced my dad to keep her out so that I could see her. She's the only reason why I saw my mom when she passed. So this really displayed that Aquarius sun square Scorpio moon that I was dealing with again. This like back and forth between detachment and attachment, but also this like, again, this intercepted Scorpio stuff of just like trying to shelter me constantly, trying to keep me in the dark, trying to keep me a baby, you know, and this woman even came to my mom's funeral, which was really weird. Whatever, I guess I should thank her because I would have never gotten to say goodbye to my mom if it wasn't for her. So to conclude, I want to talk about my mother's progress chart on the day of her passing. I think the most notable thing is that Pisces moon conjunct her 4th house right on top of her Chiron. Again, the theme of Chiron passing over the moon when you or someone is passing and going through a lot of pain. Also, it makes a lot of sense that she had just started her Pisces moon period when she pretty much knew she was going to pass. I think she had kind of come into accepting her passing around the first few months of 2020. Definitely during 2019, she was not like that. She was very much like, even like Aquarius moon. She even said to me once, like, I don't feel like a Cancer patient. And when she said that, I was like, oh no. You know, she was very detached from it and that kind of stuff. She was definitely trying to find communities and she was doing all this stuff. But Pisces moon conjunct that 4th house, it's kind of like she's going home. You know, Pisces is very much like moving to another dimension. You know, it's that sign in between life and death. It's also very emotional. She was feeling the weight of everyone around her. Also because COVID was going on during that time, everybody put COVID first above her, especially in the hospital. Like a very Libra rising experience. When she was in the hospital, she was like in the hallway. She didn't even have her own room because of all the COVID patients. Nobody wanted to visit her or see her because of COVID. We had to postpone her celebration of life for at least a year. And even then, nobody really wanted to come because of COVID. She really went through that alone, which is really the experience of a Capricorn moon. I think no matter what, when you're a Capricorn moon, you die alone. Even if you have a full giant support of people around her, everyone loved her. Everyone loved my mom. That moon moving over Chiron makes sense because she was going through an immense amount of pain. She was going through an immense amount of strife and she was literally accepting her own death. And then it's opposite her Pluto, obviously because she's going through an extreme amount of pain, an extremely traumatic time. There's also moon opposite midheaven, Virgo midheaven. Everyone's sick. Everything's closed down for COVID. Even if we wanted to go out and enjoy ourselves, we couldn't. Yeah, and I have a lot of regrets during that time too because of COVID as well. However, I will say, you know, throughout the entire time, she definitely has that 9th house sun still. She remained hopeful and optimistic the whole time. She was easy to be around. She was a pleasure to be around up until her dying day. Looking at my mother and I's Davidson and composite chart, our sun is in our 8th house and our Mercury is in our 8th house, which makes a lot of sense as she passed. But also I always have felt such an extreme bond to her, and it makes a lot of sense that together we have this Jupiter in Cancer in the 12th house trying those things, but retrograde, so it's like inward. It's like she feels like she's my guardian angel. Like it feels like she is around blessing me, helping me, you know. But we do have this Saturn in the 1st house in Virgo, like, and we do have a Capricorn moon. Like there was some major walls that unfortunately we weren't able to break through before her passing. Also, I've noticed that a lot of Capricorn moons deal with the loss of their parents. So also at the end, I just wanted to say that Scorpio energy and the Scorpio moon is about like rising from the ashes, and like that's a big theme. It's like when you die, you grow from the experience, and oh, but I know I wouldn't be the person I was without going through this, or I'm stronger now because of it, or yada yada da. And this is just a message for all the people that don't feel that way after someone passes. Like I said, it's been almost 4 years since my mother passed, and I still feel like I have done nothing but succumb to it. I feel like I've done nothing but fall and just fall under the pressure of it, like really lose myself and not be able to regain my strength after it. Like I feel like the opposite of that. So if somebody's going through a loss and has a lot of scorpionic energy, I think they do have a lot more of an ability to transform themselves from it and stuff. Like let's be real, my dad is a Scorpio moon. He's dated so much since my mom has passed. He was already dating when she passed. He has had so many new relationships. He was just always going on Match.com dates. I don't talk to him, but I'm sure he's with this new girl that he found when I left. He seemed to have risen from the ashes of my mom passing, and he got mad at me because I said I was struggling with it. And that was the last time I ever wanted to speak to him. And I hate how much it's affected me, and it's really embarrassing, honestly, how much I haven't been able to like pull myself up from my bootstraps and like be fine and keep going. But like, God, I've had so much trouble. This is coming from somebody that has a Scorpio Taurus interception that has dealt with a major death. Like not everybody rises from the ashes because of it. So if you feel like you've succumbed to it and you're like worse off because of it and you haven't had your like haha moments, like me too. And I don't think it's ever gonna come, and that's okay. It is what it is. You know, another person that reminds me and that I feel like I relate to a lot in that is Bam Margera. He's also a Cancer rising with my same interception in double, Scorpio Taurus intercepted, double Leo Aquarius, and his loss was Ryan Dunn. He never recovered from losing his best friend. It's like, it's not always going to be your mom. It's not going to be that literal, but it's going to be that person that you can't lose. That when you lose that person, your entire community, your entire life is uprooted and changed. And I know it's not just Ryan Dunn passing, but it probably almost is pretty much just because he passed. Like that pretty much is it. That's how I feel about with me and my mom. Also, I'm looking at me and my mom's composite chart, and our Capricorn moon is conjunct Chiron in the 5th house, which again reflects our 5th house Chiron, my 5th house Chiron, my 5th house Scorpio, like losing what felt like more of a best friend. So yeah, that's how I predicted death using astrology. Maybe you learned something from this video, and if not, that's fine. I would love it if you watched that little video I made of my mom, just to kind of see her and keep her in your thoughts and keep her still being a present entity in this world. I can't film this video anymore, so I'm gonna say bye. Bye.